You saw this movie.
I did.
Arrival.
I did.
A week ago.
Yep.
I saw it like 2 days ago.
Yep.
We want to talk about it. You said you had questions you wanted to ask me about it. I have some thoughts. I have some feelings about it. It's very good. I actually want to see what the Rotten Tomatoes score is. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
You know, when it first dropped, it was 100%.
Yeah.
Everybody's making a big deal about it.
It's good.
Yeah.
Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner are the leads. Also, Forrest Whitaker's there. I was
Yep.
like, get out of these space movies.
Yeah, he's in a lot of space movies
Yeah.
recently.
Anyway.
Especially. Either way, yeah, overall, very impressed with this movie.
What did you think?
It made me ask a couple questions.
Let me at them. Do we want to? So first of all, spoilers.
Yeah,
as
spoiler
standard.
alert.
Second of all, do we want to talk about?
Let's give a little synopsis first, and then I'll ask you the question. So, synopsis is main character Amy Adams, first one shown, language professor.
A linguistics professor. She's done some FBI work.
Yeah, she's
before.
Helped do Farsi and stuff for the CIA, whatever. All of a sudden, alien ships land. No one's in her class.
12 alien ships land all over the planet.
Yep, different locations.
Only one in the U.S.
Yep.
In Montana.
Yeah, out of everywhere they chose Montana, which actually Montana's pretty.
Yeah, I saw
very
the shots, and I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, Montana's awesome.
The scenes.
Except for in the wintertime, it sucks. But either way, so they land across the world, and the race is on between all the different countries that they're in to speak to
communicate. They want to ask, what is your purpose here?
Like, why are you here? Are you here to kill us? Like, people are obviously freaking out.
Because these land and nothing happens. They just sit there for
they're just floating.
48 hours.
Yeah.
They're just floating there.
And all the militaries are surrounding it and don't know what to do. They don't want to shoot it, but at the same time they don't want to die.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tension going on, and people are panicking. People think it's the end of the world. There are news reports of people killing themselves.
Dude, there was crazy. A cult.
Yeah,
they said 140 people killed themselves.
They
in a cult.
burn themselves down in a church. So there's some sketchy stuff. So Forrest Whitaker comes, asks Amy Adams. Amy Adams says yes. Goes with Jeremy Renner, who also said yes. Off scene, we don't see him do this.
Jeremy Renner, she's a linguistics professor.
Yeah.
Jeremy Renner, I guess, is the top-notch physics professor.
He's a scientist. Yeah.
Spoiler alert: I don't think he needs to be in the movie at all.
Yeah, well, he adds a little bit, I think.
He adds, his character adds, but, his specific skill set, I'm like...
Yeah, his skill set doesn't really help that
much.
But I think, as a device for the plot, he matters with her.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So, she has to figure out the language. The language is completely different than anything, obviously, ever seen on Earth.
Yeah.
As she's translating and trying to figure things out... Other countries are too.
She eventually meets them.
Which is interesting.
Which is how she gets the language.
Yeah.
And she's the main reason there's so all 12 people, so there's Asia, there's Russia, there's Egypt, South America, they're all communicating with each other to share what they know. And she's wow, spoilers, dude. Anyway. She's the breakthrough.
We said spoilers.
She gets the breakthrough, and then she shares with everybody, and then they go from there. But from my perspective, it seemed like she was always the one doing everything, and maybe they learned one or two things from the other pods, but most of the information came from the U.S.
Most of it. Australia had one breakthrough, I think, mathematical equations that helped part of the stuff, and then China used mahjong tiles, the game, to communicate with them, which made them communicate faster and get so they got the same message from their aliens in Montana that the Chinese people did, but the Chinese people interpreted it way differently because Amy Adams was like, no, there's no way this is literally this is not what this means. We're not interpreting this word right. And then she goes back and figures it out. Yeah. But the Chinese don't and mobilize their entire army. So it gets kind of sketchy there towards the end. I thought bad stuff was going to happen.
And then you find out it goes through. She kind of becomes friends with them, and then eventually. I guess we're spoiling the story.
Yeah.
You find out that they're from a different time, essentially. Yeah. They're kind of all knowing.
They're kind of timeless.
Not part of a time. They're just kind of there. And they're kind of we're here to unite the Earth because in 3,000 years, our race is going to need the Earth.
Yeah. It's going to need you guys.
Yeah. So, and then from there, once she learns the language, she describes it as...
The universal language, I believe.
The universal language. She writes a book about it later.
Yeah.
But she describes it as, if you have a sentence you want to write... You write in it with both hands from one end to the other end. You kind of meet in the middle. Yeah. But in order to do that, you need to know exactly how much space everything takes up, which would be impossible for us. But once she learns their language, which is circular,
right,
she then kind of unlocks almost the secret of time.
Yeah, she can communicate to herself.
She can communicate. She can. Time is no longer linear for her.
Yeah,
it's cyclical.
Yeah, and that leads me to some of my questions.
And then she saves the whole day, blah, blah, blah. Because eventually, like, China and U.S., or China and Russia are like, we're going to blow this thing out of the sky. Which I guess...
Yeah, because the message was, like, use weapon, or we came with weapons. I can't...
Yeah, it was
sort of weapon.
Essentially, it's supposed to be use weapon.
Yeah.
But as she interpreted it, could either mean weapon or tool.
Yeah.
But because China is, like, using Mahjong, it's win or lose.
Yeah, it's opponent versus opponent, so there's no, like, middle ground to it. It's one person loses, one person wins. So, like, the way they interpreted it was the only way they could.
However, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah. So, a lot of fun. Questions now.
Okay.
Number one.
First question. How the heck does she afford that house? Do you see that house? That house was incredible. Literally the whole movie. Like, I don't have a lot of problems with the movie. There are a few. One of them is, how does she afford the house in the beginning? Yeah. Because, as you find out, you start... So, the middle of the movie is really the start of the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas the beginning is kind of the end, and the end is the end. But it's all circular, so you kind of watch it over and over again, and it all makes sense. But in the very beginning, before the aliens, she's at that house.
Right.
And how did she afford that house on a CIA salary, maybe?
No,
but a professor salary?
Professor salary. Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot
because later she sells, I assume, the best-selling book of all time, The Universal Language.
Right, and later on she's married and has dual income.
Yeah.
So, I think there could be other things that could explain away. Maybe it's family money, maybe it's, whatever else. I don't think it's like a deal breaker.
But her mom's not dead.
My question is, how was she having those visions before she met the aliens? And maybe it's because I'm not interpreting like the beginning right, but... To me, the beginning, she was having these dreams.
I didn't think they were dreams. I thought it was literally happening, or she was experiencing it.
Well, at first I thought she was reliving, like rethinking about memories that just happened to her.
That's how I interpreted it.
But that's not the case because she is a teacher by herself and she hasn't even met her husband yet.
It could be the case.
Or the daughter.
I think the main point is that because time is cyclical, kind of like a deja vu type thing. Because once you get to the point where she sees time non-linear, that would affect literally everything that she's ever done. Because it's not like it goes linear to a point where it's cyclical.
Right.
At that point, it's been cyclical the whole time. So then she can experience things in the past at that time. She can experience things in the future at that time. It all happens at once, kind of all mumbled together. And I just think that... Or maybe she had these memories, and maybe it was just showing us that as like a red herring. To be like, feel for this woman because she just had her daughter die of cancer, and that gives backstory to her character, but she never talks about that until it actually happens.
Well, until you realize that this actually hasn't happened yet, which she keeps, over the course of the entire movie, she keeps having these dreams, vision things of her future and her past, mostly of her future, at least the way I saw it. And so she seems confused, and she sometimes knows things that she doesn't know that she knows, and shouldn't know at the time. And so it just seemed kind of weird to me at the very beginning. I guess it makes sense if she's essentially she breaks herself out of linear time, and that I guess that kind of explains it, because then it would affect her entire life, all of her time is now different. But there's that. And the second question was, would you make the same choice that she made about having falling in love and having your daughter who, has cancer and dies terribly while you're there, would you choose that path knowing how it ended?
So essentially her what happens is that she gets married to Jeremy Renner.
Yep.
And then they have, I assume, a happy life, and then their daughter is born, and then maybe when the daughter's 5, Amy Adams is AOJ Renner, our daughter's gonna die of cancer when she's 15. Yeah. So he because
she's been holding it in this whole time.
Yeah.
She knows.
So he F's off.
He's I hate this.
He's I don't like the fact that, one, you're hiding that from me and you knew all along, and two,
that's that
weird. You told me,
right?
Because maybe he just want to experience. So he's out. So he's not part of her life anymore.
They get a divorce.
They get a divorce or separated or whatever. And I didn't know if he was at the very beginning. I didn't know if he was alive or dead or what happened.
Right.
And then she grows up with a daughter, and obviously mother-daughter, they have a lot of good fun. They probably watch the Gilmore Girls. They have a lot of fun like that.
Oh my gosh! Stop it! Stop that!
And then again, she dies, and that's tragic.
Right.
And then once you get to the end of the movie, she now sees all of her future before it happens.
Right.
So she then gets to make the decision do I pursue Jeremy Renner and then have all this happen the way I've seen it happen, or do I not pursue him and maybe change things that haven't happened? And she decides to pursue him.
Right. She decides to live through that life that she saw for herself.
And I think she's already experienced all the joy from a non-linear perspective. She's already experienced everything like that, and she's already experienced all the pain. That comes with that. So maybe she decided like the joy outweighs the pain, or maybe that one of those it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all type situations.
True. Or it may even be one of the things where you can't change it.
I mean, yeah, maybe, but
I mean, yeah, because I don't know if it necessarily means that she won't love anyone if she doesn't choose him.
I think even with this, she said the disease is super rare and it's uncurable. Because you'd be like, oh, well, why can't she just figure out what the disease was before it happened and cure it?
Yeah,
well, she can't.
Yeah, it's super rare. Super sketchy.
I don't know. Do you think this movie was more about her as a character, or do you think it's about the alien invasion? I also have some questions. Some little things I picked up on the movie. And I want to kind of change the perspective of the movie a little bit to, instead of viewing it as her story and as his story and as a military story, view it as like a standard citizen in any one of these countries.
Dude, it'd be so scary.
There was like a 5-second news clip in the movie that was showing riots in Egypt and like some things in China and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's normal.
Right.
But then there's a single sentence where they said 800,000 people marched on Washington, D.C. to understand. I'm like,
to protest their handling of the aliens.
And I'm just like, first of all, that's so many people.
That is very many.
I don't know how many people were there for like the MLK march. I could look it up real quick. But I assume... Actually, I need to know now. But I guess my question is, as we just finished an election cycle, what does the government do in that situation? Because they know what's going on. They know that we're breaking through. They know that we're talking. But the media is changing everything, and they're going with things.
Right, they're saying overanalyzing everything and drawing conclusions that may not be there.
So what does the government, what does the president do? They say, "Don't worry, we have this handled," or they say, "This is everything we have," because that's so many people. That's almost 1 million, and that's a fraction of what's in the United States. It's a fraction of probably what's in DC. But if all those people care that much, like, what would happen?
Right. No, I mean, I think it's a good point. I think from the standard person's perspective, it would be so difficult to understand. And this kind of relates even to how Hello Games does it. You know? Okay. Like, do you choose not to communicate what's going on? Because that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
You also may want to be careful because it's probably going to start playing.
No, I turned my volume down.
Okay. 200,000.
200,000. So 4 times what was at the MLK March in Washington.
Yeah. So, you know, it almost is like what Hello Games is. Like, do you say nothing at all and let people just make conclusions on their own? But
there's also rioting on the first 3 days they mentioned. Like, the National Guard couldn't handle it. The president had to put in a martial law.
Right.
And, like, you guys need to take a step back. But.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. And it's one of the things, too, where people, especially in the U.S., just, like, don't trust the government at all. Mm-hmm. And so, I think even if they did communicate, like, this is all we have, they'd be like, they're hiding something.
Yeah.
Time to revolt, right? Mm-hmm. Like, people would still be freaking out.
So I'm just like, because we see it from her perspective, and she's making these breakthroughs literally every time she talks to them. And you're like, okay, this is going very well for her. But that information isn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, for the standard U.S. citizen, like, or for the standard citizen of anyone. And eventually when everyone, when all the countries break off, you're just like, what's going to happen? And it turns out that it's supposed to be 1 of 12, and all 12 people are supposed to get together and communicate and things like that. And I didn't really understand, like, what was the aliens' point? Like, what was their purpose? Like, what are they trying to do?
Man, I really feel like this movie's about humanity less than it is about aliens. Because the whole movie just is how do they react to it. And you get, like, the riots and things. You also get the soldiers who plant that C4 bomb. Yeah. Like, you get a ton of different perspectives on how the people react. And in the end, it's not about really the aliens. The aliens give a gift to Amy Adams, which allows for the world to unite. And that's the only. I mean, the only thing the aliens did was sit there floating in space, and then unlock this language, and that's it. And then they're gone, and there's nothing else. So I really don't think it's about the aliens. I think they're vital to the story, obviously, but I don't think the purpose of the movie is that. I think the purpose of the movie is humanity, and how would we all react to these situations. Hopefully we would all unite and not be...
Like, we as a group, not we as individuals.
Yeah, like we as a group.
I don't know, they all... From what I understood, at the end, because it kind of shoots forward to where she's at the ceremony after her book, and they have all the flags on the wall, but they also have the universal flag.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the world came together as one.
Yeah. Afterwards. Which, to me, I'm like, how would that really work that way? I feel like the world's pretty divided, and I don't think just a bunch of aliens popping down and scaring everybody would necessarily just stop all the conflict in, Gaza, the Middle East. And, China and trade and ocean crap that's going on right now. Like, I don't know if all that stuff would just end. Mm-hmm. But
there was also an offhand comment of, they're like, if the aliens want to talk to the leader, there's not one single leader for the there's not one single leader for the world. And I think that's kind of maybe what they were building to at the end, is that now there is.
Yeah. Or they're working towards it. I don't know.
How does that work?
I don't know.
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a good movie. I think it was a really good sci-fi movie. Probably the best sci-fi. Was it better than Interstellar?
To me, no. But no. I think it's on the same... I think it's on the same level.
What about Inception? Would you put all three of them on the same level?
Yes, but I would put Arrival a little bit under both of those. Just because I think the scale... the scale's pretty big, I guess, with Arrival. But the way it's filmed, it seemed more epic, both Interstellar and... Inception, because just the way it's filmed is different. And this one just really is about Amy, and like there are a lot of scenes with just her like laying in bed, waking up from her dream.
This movie is only 2 hours long, and I wouldn't have been upset if there was like another half hour, 45 minutes. Just not so much explaining things, but like
just more stuff.
I want to see more news segments during the thing. I want to see more of what happens afterwards. Not just, again, it's a personal story of Amy, I guess, but of Amy Adams' character, which I don't remember what her name. Louise.
Yeah, Louise.
But I kind of want to see that party where she meets the Chinese general at the end.
Yeah, we saw like 20 seconds of it.
Yeah, I'm like, I kind of want to see more of that. I want to see what happens to the Earth after. But
yeah, I know there are a lot of unfinished questions that they could have expanded on. And so I think it's like on the same level. As
also,
those.
China was like in charge of everything.
Yeah,
because when China backed out, everyone else backed out, and then when she talked to the Chinese general and he went back in, everyone else went all in too. Yeah, like so maybe they should just be talking to China.
Maybe they have the most people.
India, I guess.
Nope. Nope. China does. I think it's like 1.3 to 1.1 or something.
Billion.
It's pretty close. They're both over a billion.
Billions.
A billion.
Good for them.
Yep.
So yeah, Arrival, worth it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it's
worth seeing in theaters.
Sure.
Good old Underpaid Gamers rating.
Yeah, I would say so.
So it's worth a standard theater ticket.
I would say yes.
Does that also include concessions or not?
I think.
Was that personal preference?
I think that's personal preference because I think there's some people who, no matter what, are not going to buy concessions, and there are people who, no matter what, like me, are going to buy concessions. So I don't know if I want to throw a concession in there, but I think it's worth at least a Slurpee.
So it's worth $10 at a theater to see.
For sure.
Which we, what was the last movie we watched? We said we didn't. We had that talk about Doctor Strange where he said, maybe it's a Redbox movie. Yeah. And I think that's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Was it?
Remember? Talking about it? Do I need to bring that back up?
I can't remember.
Remember, we said for Doctor Strange, we're like, it was a good movie, but maybe we should have seen it in IMAX 3D because it would have changed it.
Right.
So, like, if you see it in Redbox...
we didn't see it
in the best.
Yeah, that could have happened.
But this is good.
This is definitely good.
I don't know if there's... First, Whitaker has a weird accent.
Yeah, he is. He does have a little bit.
What's going on there?
I don't think
he's also not in it very much after the beginning,
which is fine because I don't really think he's that.
Oh, we didn't talk. Jeremy Renner. His character doesn't really do anything. Like he has one breakthrough to where he finds out it means 1 of 12, but at the same time it's like,
right.
I don't know.
I mean, it would make sense for them to have him there, like the government choosing them,
like
both.
a physicist,
like having
he's trying to figure out how they get here, right, and then it turns out all they are is dust on the wind,
right? They just disappear. I'm doing the intro. Dust on. Yeah, so his character kind of weird, but I also understand why he's there. Also, he's important for Amy's sake, I think, because he kind of keeps her sane a little bit.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Fun times. It was a good movie.
For sure.
I don't think I'll buy it, but
I don't know if I will either. Like on DVD, but I definitely like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
I support that movie.
If you guys have seen it out there in the interwebs, go ahead.
And the outer web.
And the outer web.
And the deep web.
And the deep web. And the light up in the interweb. If you're flying a plane and listening to us. Which you should probably be focusing on flying a plane.
I don't know. We're pretty good for...
We're pretty good at listening. Who knows?
Easy listening.
Easy listening with Underpaid Gamers Podcast. If you'd like to enter into the conversation...
Tell us what you thought.
Yes, exactly.
If you have questions, let me know.
Yeah, tweet at us at UPGamersPodcast. Or you can send us an email at underpaidgamerspodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website, underpaidgamers.com. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Underpaid Gamers.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
It's not quite... We're not quite at underpaid or youtube.com/underpaidgamers. Don't know how to do that.
Yeah. We're not official.
Hopefully we'll get there sometime. SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, leave us ratings.
Yep.
Comment.
Yep.
That'd be a lot of fun.
We would love
it. We try to respond. Sometimes, no, we respond most of the time.
I was going to say, if you reach out on one of the main venues that we use, being Twitter, Gmail, SoundCloud, or YouTube, I think would be the main things we check most often, we will get back to you. And we have every time. So
correct.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
See you later.